He's got one foot in the frying pan and one in the pressure cooker. Believe me, as a bowler, I know that right about now, your bladder feels like an overstuffed vacuum cleaner bag, and your butt is kind of like an about-to-explode bratwurst.
Hey, do you mind? I wasn't talking when you were bowling.
Was I talking out loud?
Welcome to Munson's at the Movies. My name is Kyle. I will once again be your host, joined by the rest of the Munsons. I want to give them a wide berth.
He's what is called a born loser. A real Munson.
And talk a little bit about what's going on in their worlds. Case, you're up first.
Mourning the passing of some great ones, in no particular order. Lost Cloris Leachman, Cicely Tyson, and Screech. I'm not sure what Screech's first name was, but we lost him, and it's tough time in the celebrity world, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Wait, time out. Cloris Leachman died?
She did.
Yeah,
man.
Yeah.
What the shit?
What's wild about Cicely Tyson, she was on tour promoting her memoirs on Tuesday, and she passed away on Thursday.
Hustling till the end. Good for her.
I guess.
Yeah, when the news about Leachman came out, everybody was telling all these random stories about her, and apparently she told the story of this one-night romp she had with Jack Nicholson back in the day, and how impressed she was by his bed skills. So there you go. A guy we'll talk about here tonight at a certain point.
She was fucking hilarious.
Yeah, she's awesome.
I hope we have more Jack Nicholson dick talk tonight.
Her and Beer Fest is just epic.
I totally forgot about that. James.
Cancel my wedding for like the third time. So I think we're just going to stop planning a wedding. I think at this point, you guys definitely owe me 3 gifts. Other than that, you'll be getting no more invitations, and love is dead. All right, cool.
Fair enough.
Oh, God. Follow that one up, Warren.
I'm in the middle of my 3rd draft for a movie talking about GameStop that I'm selling to Netflix currently. Because there are not enough movies about short squeezes and all that other bullshit. Anybody who wants to write a movie or has something to add about a bunch of virgins manipulating the market, go ahead and send your ideas my way.
Warren, the screenwriter, is taking all of your ideas. Let's go. Love it. Rigby.
Yeah, same old, same old. Also, rest in peace to Larry King. He died
That's right.
a while back.
Oh, that's right.
He was one of my favorites. He always had my dream job, just to sit down and ask celebrities questions and just let them talk to you for an hour. I think that'd be a pretty cool job.
And having 11 wives?
Not 11 wives.
I was about to say, I think he's got more wives than we have episodes at this point.
Trying to figure out his will was probably a nightmare for his attorney, but
oh, good grief! Yeah,
going to be a lot of pissed off people on that one, I'm sure.
They had to bring Neil deGrasse Tyson in to do that.
Oh, man. My end, I just wrapping up the 2021 Sundance Film Festival from the seat of my couch, and that's it's been relaxing and cheap comparatively to the previous year. I've enjoyed that. I don't know really yet which films people need to look out for. Like, is there a Whiplash coming out of Sundance? I don't know. There's a lot of other films. Some will see the light of day. Others no one will ever hear about, and that's just film festivals in a nutshell. But we're not running without a guest this week. It's just us, just the old Munsons. Birthdays. Warren, what do we got?
First off, we got Natalie Dormer from the Tudors, Game of Thrones, Captain America, Hunger Games, and Casanova.
30. I'm going to go 33.
28? Going the under.
Dang it, you guys are all over the place. Let me go. Somebody say 32.
No.
Well, Craig gets 32. She's 39.
Oh,
holy hell.
what?
Yeah.
Damn, good for her, man. She looks great.
Very good. Next up, we got Jennifer Aniston. Friends, Office Space, Horrible Bosses, We're the Millers, and Mac and Me. It was her first role. She was uncredited in the movie Mac and Me.
The legend herself is 55.
Oh, man. Give me 51.
50.
I'm going to go older. I'm going to go 57.
52. Kyle gets it with 51.
Dang.
She has not aged one bit.
She looks better now than she did 20 years ago.
Yeah, I agree. I think she's gotten more attractive with age.
She's got like the Paul Rudd effect. Looks better with age.
Sure.
Yeah, sure. Paul Rudd, of all the actors to choose, yeah.
She's compared all the time to Paul Rudd.
Yeah, when I think Jennifer Aniston, I go Paul Rudd immediately.
Yeah, every now and then I actually call her Jennifer Rudd because I get them confused.
Stop pretending like people don't constantly talk about Paul Rudd and the fact he doesn't age. killing me over here, James.
That's the quantum effect.
Oh, yeah. The Ant-Man effect. I like it.
Yeah. Last up, we got Damian Lewis. Billions, Homeland, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Your Highness, and the 2014 version of Romeo and Juliet with Haley Steinfeld, Stellan Skarsgård, and Paul Giamatti, which I didn't know existed.
It's so eerily specific.
Yeah, that doesn't sound like a movie that does exist. I'm going to still go 48.
52, Warren.
53.
I'm shooting low. Give me 45.
50. James gets it with the first
Nice.
Damn it.
February 11th, good day. Also is Burt Reynolds, Leslie Nielsen, and Taylor Lautner.
Oh, wow.
But didn't want to do the first two. Just rest in peace, Angels.
Big Taylor Lautner podcast.
I was going to say, Taylor Lautner hasn't died yet, right? He's still alive.
Who cares?
Yeah, in my opinion, he died at the end of Grown Ups, too.
Maybe his career died, but not him.
Per the usual, we threw 5 actors onto that wheel. We're recording this before we put out the wheel onto the social media sphere. So we don't know if we're going to have the Flocklear coming or the Tunny Honeys coming to our doorstep.
The
So
Robin Tunney pot.
here's my question to you all. Of the 4 that it wasn't, Gleason, Levy, Deutsch, and Sumter, a little Nostradamus action here. Who do you think is going to come with the biggest fan collection, like random fan accounts? Which of those 4 might flood us?
Zoe,
I think. Yeah.
Think Deutsch?
Yeah, I was going to say that, too.
Because I feel like she'd have the most millennial followers.
the Deutschmarks with Zoe.
What does that mean? What does millennial followers mean?
James, aren't we? We're millennials, right?
Yeah, we are firmly. So she has people our age that are going to follow. Okay.
Yeah, that are going to have the fan accounts. I feel like that's more up their alley.
All right, so she has the target market for this podcast, is what you're saying.
I think we're actually going to get a bunch of shitheads for Eugene Levy.
Yep. That was
Yep.
going to be mine.
Oh,
I think.
good.
The American Pie franchise.
Yeah, some pie fuckers.
Keep in mind, the Flocklear and the Tunny Honeys are for actors who are a little bit older in the game, and Deutsch is pretty young. So I'm looking at like Levy, the Schitt's Creek fans. That group might slam us in the next couple of days, but everybody knows that it should be Gleason. Neither here nor there. The answer for our episode and the wheel has chosen Anjelica Huston. She's got about 100 credits on her career. She's directed 3 films, which we'll talk about today. Has done a bunch of other things, but I'm not going to give those away because, as always, we'll give James a chance to stump us when it comes to actor trivia.
Absolutely. While we were discussing that, I had pizza dropped off, so my mouth is watering right now for some pizza, but also for some Anjelica Huston facts. So let me hit you with them. As always, 2 truths and a lie. One of these is going to be a lie about one of the stars of the Fast and Furious franchise. The other 2 are going to be facts about Anjelica Huston's wildlife. So fact number 1, her birthday falls on February 29th, which means that most years she doesn't have a birthday. Fact number 2, great American author John Steinbeck once dressed up as Santa Claus and visited her family on Christmas. Fact number 3, her family is one of only 2 families in history to have 3 generations of Oscar winners.
I'm going to go number 2 is the lie.
You've really stumped me on this one, and I'm going to take a guess, and being that pretty much everyone has ever been in a Fast and Furious movie, I'm going to say it's Viola Davis is the lie as number 1.
Just taking stabs at random actors now at this point. All right, give me, I think it was Clint Eastwood, and I'm going fact 1 as well, because he was, and I don't know, he was an extra in Tokyo Drift.
Clint Eastwood was definitely not in Tokyo Drift.
Yeah, I think you're talking about his son, who is definitely in it. But I'm going with Gary Scott Thompson for number 3. And Gary Scott Thompson was the creator of the original Fast and Furious.
Oh, R.I.P. to the king himself, Gary Scott Thompson.
He's still alive.
Yeah, but he should rest at this moment.
Are you serious? Clint Eastwood's son was in Tokyo Drift?
He's in a movie. I don't know if it's that one in particular.
How old is his son? 75 years old?
Yeah, I just picked a random old-ass actor.
Scott Eastwood.
Okay.
Did anyone guess number 3?
I did.
Okay, so you'd be wrong. Her family is actually one of only 2 families in history to have 3 generations of Oscar winners. The Coppolas are the other for their involvement with the Godfather movies. But Anjelica's grandfather, Walter, was an actor, and her father, John, of course, was an acclaimed director, both of which won Academy Awards for their work in The Treasure of Sierra Madre, while Anjelica took home the award for Prizzi's Honor, which we'll discuss later. Fact number 2, was in fact true. John Steinbeck did visit her family. He was friends with her father, visited her family in Ireland on Christmas, and because he was coming on Christmas, decided to dress up as Santa. Not everyone has a interesting childhood quite like she did. It wasn't always glamorous, but that's about as glamorous as it gets right there. Fact number 1, her birthday is not February 29th.
Yes.
Ja Rule's birthday is February 29th. He was the star of the first Fast and the Furious movie, as well as the Fire Festival documentary.
Does that make Ja Rule like 15?
Yes, he Benjamin Buttons every year. So he, I believe, is actually 6 years old.
And James, fact checking you, Viola Davis is born on August 11th. So that was a wrong guess on my part. So you're correct.
Good to know. Good to know. I don't know how to feel about this.
I didn't know Ja Rule was still alive.
It'll live forever.
He's not rapping, I don't think. I guess he's just dealing in bad musical festivals and dealing with fucking cryptocurrency or something. Who knows? All right, Case, tell us a little bit about her snapshot in box office history.
For as big of a name as Anjelica Huston is with her family, and as accomplished as she is in her career, and the amount of movies that she was in, she doesn't really have any big poppers, and like some of the other ones have had. The movies that she has done the best in, no surprise, would be the Addams Family movies. Kyle, what was her first film credit? 67?
Yeah.
From 1967 all the way until 2002 was the first time that she ever had a movie that had over a $50 million budget. Before that, she had about 15 to 20 that were less than 15 million. She's so accomplished. I was surprised, though, that some of the more successful films didn't have bigger budgets. It was Bloodwork in 2002 that was the first one that she did. But other than that, you guys, it's pretty straightforward. Comparing her to the other actors and actresses, she ranks 29th IMDb popularity, and she doesn't rank well in terms of box office stuff, but she does rank pretty high in both critic and fan ranking, which are ranked 5th and 8th, respectively. I think the movies she's in are well received by both critics and fans. But that's the other part, too, is she was most prominent in an era where I don't think the number one goal was to make as much money as you can. I think they wanted to make money, but I don't think that was the driving factor. Similar to Rene Russo, she didn't have any huge box office movies in her heyday. And I think Anjelica Huston falls into that same category.
So she's dead last in IMDb Star Meter of all the actors we've covered.
She is dead last.
Really?
She has a Star Meter at time of recording of 3,629. And 28th place is held by the one and only, my man with the towel, Craig Robinson, who at time of recording was 3,427. Craig Robinson finally got out of the cellar in the IMDb Star Meter rating.
All right, thanks, Case. All right, before we get to first feature film, as James had mentioned, she's kind of a wild life. It's hard to encapsulate everything that she's done and experienced when you're born into that kind of Hollywood film and television royalty. But to kind of hit some of the highlights, Walter John Huston, her dad was nominated for 10 Oscars as a director. He did movies like The Maltese Falcon, African Queen. She was born while he was filming African Queen. She went to a convent until she was 11. And then she spent most of her early days, her adolescence in Ireland, growing up there with novelists, socialites, ambassadors, countesses, celebrities, all sorts of people. And she narrated a documentary in 2007 about the Irish country house, tying back to her background and growing up there. Her first acting role was in a performance of Macbeth in her living room, where she caught the eye of Peter O'Toole, just a casual person just being in your living room when you're a kid. And that's where she got noticed. After that, she moved to London. Her parents' divorce or lack of divorce is very complicated. James might be able to add some additional thoughts to that. But her brother, Danny Huston, is someone that you all might recognize as an actor and a director. He's the main vampire in 30 Days a Night. That's how I always recognize him. I'm sure there are better roles that you should tie to him.
Yeah, I didn't realize they were related, and I've seen him multiple times. Like, oh, damn, wow, I didn't realize she was close with that guy. And now I realize they have the same last name, and I'm a fucking idiot.
But she started her modeling career. That's where she got her early start, and that put her on the map. But her first role, as Craig mentioned, she was in very briefly in Casino Royale in 67.
Mm-hmm.
That is the first of 5 films she did with her father, but very minor. Then she was photographed for Vogue magazine in 1968. And then she was in another of her father's films, A Walk with Love and Death. And that film, she says now that she wished she hadn't done it. She wanted to take on the role in Romeo and Juliet, had read for it. Her father convinced her to take on this role, and she had said that she just wasn't ready for her father's directorial style, and it just was not a good experience, to the point where John Simon, a critic, had said she was supremely inept in that role. And I watched some of it on YouTube. She is not very good. I mean, understandably so. She's like 18 years old, 17 years old when she films it, but she might have actually been 15 at the time.
She was 16.
Pretty early on. That's her second film with her father. She does another one same year, Sinful Davy with John Huston. And at that time, she was with a man who was like 23 years older than her for 4 years. And then she moved to New York City for her modeling career to pursue that further after she met Jack Nicholson. And that kind of started the Jack Nicholson era, where she was basically dating him on and off for about 17 years. And did 5 different films with him, which included One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, very short, brief appearance in that. She was in The Last Tycoon, The Postman Always Rings Twice in 81. Also in there, fun little fact, there's a nugget you can find online where she was apparently a witness to some of Roman Polanski's abuse, because I guess they crossed the same circles at that point in time. And she also got busted for cocaine at that point.
If she's 18 dating guys who are 50, I'm not shocked she bumps into Roman Polanski's crew. It's only a matter of time. Despite having like this glitz and glamour from afar kind of upbringing, like her life was tough.
Yeah.
You know, her mom was a ballerina and her dad is this Hollywood, star when it comes to directing. And she never saw either of them. And her mother passed away from a car accident, and so she had to live with her father. And she said, he would say, "Oh my God, my children are my life. They motivate, they're everything. They're the reason I do all this." And she's like, "We never saw anything like that. He was an absent father. He just paid bills, essentially. He cheated on our mother. They fought all the time. That's why she has so many half brothers and sisters, including Danny Huston, who you mentioned." She attributes her relationship with her parents to kind of the failing romantic relationship she's had throughout her life, where she's been attracted to men who treat her poorly. And she's like, I'm the clear test case for psychiatry on how your parents can affect your love life, because that is exactly what happened to her, where her dad treated her like shit growing up, and it was by the time she was 18, she's dating guys who are 50 who treat her like shit.
Yeah. Kyle, you were talking about her husband. I believe that was her photographer, wasn't it?
I believe so.
When she started her modeling career?
Yep.
And then they used to hang out with Andy Warhol. How fucking crazy is that?
All I can think of is Bill Hader as Andy Warhol.
He's a time traveler, and he's like, "I just took a picture of a can of soup, and everyone thinks I'm a genius. I have no idea what's going on."
Any other actor, Craig, that if we were talking about, if you're like, "Hey, Craig Robinson," or someone used to hang out with Andy Warhol, I'd be like, "You're fucking crazy." But knowing the people that she was surrounded with growing up, it makes complete sense. 100%.
Yeah.
She got busted for cocaine in 77, got out of it. Nothing ever came from it. But I guess, you hang out with those types. That's going to happen in the late 70s.
Dude, you get busted for cocaine in the 70s, you could be president.
I guess so. In the Hollywood scene, I'm sure that was pretty normal. She just happened to be one of those people that got busted for it, I suppose. A couple appearances on Laverne and Shirley, and then had at least one scene, I don't know, multiple scenes in This Is Spinal Tap, 84.
She's the artist that made the Stonehenge sculpture that was only 18 inches high.
Didn't they ask for 18 feet?
Well, no, it said 18 inches on the napkin, and she's like, "Well, this is what you wrote on the napkin." And he's like, "Haven't you ever heard of Stonehenge?" She's like, well, yeah, but you said 18 inches. And so in order to even try to salvage it, they brought dwarfs out.
Yeah, they brought in
dwarfs to dance around, and they're tripping on wires. And it's really funny. The funny part is, because I hadn't seen it in a long time, and so I had to look up what she was in. And as the Stonehenge sculpture starts coming down, because of forced perspective, it actually looks normal. And then you just see the guitarist's face looking at it like, what the fuck is that? And it just sits 18 inches off the ground.
Yeah, I read that it was some kind of meta joke on a similar incident with Black Sabbath at one point.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, something
I
similar.
think that's a lot of the jokes in Spinal Tap is they're all based off of actual shit that has happened to rock bands.
Mm-hmm. And the last thing before first feature film, She turned down Daryl Hannah's role in Splash, 1984. I've never seen Splash, so I don't know if that's a good decision or not. You all can tell me.
No, so would it start opposite of Tom Hanks?
Yeah, that's interesting because that movie put Daryl Hannah on the map.
Yeah.
And at that point, I don't know, Anjelica Huston had somewhat established herself, I think. So I don't know. It'd be interesting to see the contrast between the two. Didn't know that.
Well, she certainly established herself in 85 with her first feature film, that's Prizzy's Honor. And I'm covering it. It's another film directed by her dad, John Huston, adapted from a novel. He is still to this day the oldest director to ever be nominated for an Oscar at 79 years old, to the point where he was directing with an oxygen tank pretty much the entire film.
Oh, damn.
That had to be an interesting experience for everybody involved. High scores on IMDb and Rotten Tomatoes for audiences and critics. The cast includes 6 Oscar nominees: Jack Nicholson, Kathleen Turner, Robert Loggia, William Hickey, Anjelica Huston, and a quick debut from Stanley Tucci, which I could not find. He plays a soldier, and I combed through that movie, and I could not find his role. But apparently he's in there.
I literally just watched it today. Tucci's not in that movie. He's probably got a full mane of hair, and that's why I didn't recognize him.
I guess. Yeah, we're looking for the bald guy with glasses and struggling mightily, I guess. But the movie was nominated for 8 Oscars. Best Actor, Best Supporting Actress, Director, Adapted Screenplay, Best Picture, Costume Design, Supporting Actor, and Editing. The crazy part is, when the studio put this thing out, they had super low expectations. They really didn't think it was going to turn into much. Joke's on them. It was a huge sleeper hit that year. It's billed as a dark comedy. I never really got much of a comedic sense from it. Maybe there's a few jokes here and there, but it kind of turns the mafia-related storylines on its head a little bit, especially with Anjelica Huston's character. Basic gist: Charlie knocks off Irene's husband. She happens to be an assassin too, and she gets paid to knock him off. And it's 2 assassins who fall in love and then are told to kill each other. That's the basic gist of the movie. It grossed $26 million on a $16 million budget. Anjelica plays May Rose, who is only on screen for, I think, 16% of the runtime is what I saw, but the movie largely revolves around her character's plight. And she won an Oscar for Best Supporting Actress in the role. She beat out some heavyweights that year too, including Oprah in The Color Purple. You know, she learned her Brooklyn accent by going to a Brooklyn church, apparently. Her character is very manipulative, very stoic. She's got a smirk that she rocks constantly. She's pretty captivating, I felt, her character.
I was kind of blown away that this movie had been nominated for so many awards that it had been. I thought it was like a good 80s romantic drama-ish, right?
Mr. and Miss Smith in the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Right.
good,
It's like
good
a great-
call, Warren.
Wow,
Good call.
Warren. Yeah, that nails it.
I never watched it, but just based off of what you said, that's exactly what I get from it.
I thought it was like a unique story, but I was blown away. It was so successful because, I mean, I wasn't super captivated, but great actors were in it and a unique story, and that's all I got from it. And then I see it wins all these awards, and I was blown away. And one interesting little tidbit that came from this is her winning her Academy Award for this has actually sparked a maintained feud between her and Oprah.
Yeah.
Oh,
So it's one-sided ever since Anjelica beat out Oprah for the Best Supporting Actress, where Oprah was nominated for The Color Purple. She's been shunned by Oprah, never been invited to her show. They haven't spoken since. And she's only seen her in person once since then at a party. And Anjelica Huston's talking to Clint Eastwood at this party. And Oprah steps in between them, cuts their conversation off with her back to Anjelica Huston, and starts talking to Clint Eastwood and never acknowledges her. And after that, Houston's like, fuck this girl. Yeah, I don't need to talk to Oprah. I don't give a shit.
Yep.
It's been like, what are we looking at? 40
30
years?
years, yeah.
30 years? Yeah, it's a
Well,
long time.
Until that moment, it had been 30 years. She ignored her for 30 years.
Wow.
It's not like she said, vote for me. This is what happens.
Yeah,
Is the first 20 minutes just really slow, or is that just me?
it is. It
It
is.
is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love gangster movies like you mentioned, Kyle, and to see sort of a satire of them with, assassins and stuff, I probably should have stuck with it, but I don't know. I just wasn't into it. And I love Kathleen Turner, especially 80s Kathleen Turner,
Yeah.
but I don't know. Not for me.
Her character as the mafia boss's daughter is much more empowered than a lot of the other films of that era. And she has some agency to her. She's kind of making her own decisions. And she is doing, like I said, manipulative. Her character is basically moving the story along by being an asshole.
Yeah, she's scheming.
Because she felt that she was set aside by the family and had her heart broken by Jack Nicholson's character, those kinds of things. So I haven't watched enough Mafia movies to be able to compare and contrast.
The tone is completely different than most Mafia movies because it's way more lighthearted. Like, there is the potential of someone being killed, but it's looked at from the lens of Jack Nicholson's in love with a hit woman, I guess. And his ex is Anjelica Huston, who just kind of hates her dad because he's treated her like shit, so she's scheming. But it's not like dark where you're fearful. It's more like I'm intrigued to see where the story is going. So I think the tone is different than almost all mob movies I've seen.
And the movie ends back to her character. It all comes full circle to Nicholson's doing his thing. I don't want to spoil anything for you, Rick, because you might want to finish it after this.
I know.
It definitely comes back around to her at the end. But for her, early in her career, getting an Oscar at this point in what we're calling her first feature film, she's pretty good. I mean, you could criticize the movie for X, Y, and Z, but her lines are pretty poetic, theatrical. She's got some really emotional scenes. Oprah's probably pissed, but I don't think Anjelica didn't deserve it at that point in time.
Do you know who else was considered for the role, who she had to beat out? It was Cher.
That's right. Because she's competed with Cher for a number of roles over the years. Yep.
Would you say Prizzy's Honor was John Huston's last movie, or was he just really sick during?
He was really sick during that. His last movie is we're going to talk about here in a minute.
Gotcha.
So that's Prizzy's Honor, first feature film. Between 86 and 88, she does some interesting things. She is in Captain EO as the Supreme Leader, which is a very unique role for her. Captain EO was basically created by George Lucas and Francis Ford Coppola for like the Disney properties. And it has Michael Jackson playing kind of like a ship captain, Star Wars style. And she plays the alien like the alien leader in there. So very different than a lot of the other stuff she's done. It's available on YouTube. It's about 20 minutes long. You can check it out if you were not old enough like me to go to Disney properties and see it in 1986. So, but after that, she did another Francis Ford Coppola film in Gardens of Stone in 87, and then was in her dad's last film, The Dead, in 1987, which she developed Epstein-Barr syndrome on set because it was so stressful. But her character's got some good emotional depth in that one. Cole Meany is in there, a younger Cole Meany on set. But that film is very Irish-centric and is something that I know her and her father were very proud of, given their background from being from there.
Very fitting movie for his last one to be with his son.
The Dead, yeah. Yeah. I think it's based on a novel that they adapted.
I was actually saying it was fitting because they got to talk about their hair, or they got to honor their heritage, and it was his last movie. But and then you mentioned it was The Dead, and kind of caught my eye. So that was unintentional, Kyle.
1988, she's in A Handful of Dust as Mrs. Rattery, a cameo, but a critic I read said it's the single most stunning performance of that particular project. And then she's in Mr. North as Persis, which she has only a few scenes, but for every time she's on screen, she's magnetic, she steals them, she's very elegant and mysterious. It's not really about her character, but she does pretty good in that. And that takes us all the way to 1989's Crimes and Misdemeanors. It is highest critic score. And Rigby is going to love to talk to us about a little Woody Allen. So
Crimes and Misdemeanors from director Woody Allen is an 89 comedy drama, I would say. I say that because the movie has two narratives. One is more of a tragedy and the other is a comedy. The tragedy narrative follows a man named Judah, who's played by Martin Landau. He's a successful eye doctor who's caught up in an affair with a woman threatening to expose the affair and his illegal financial activities. And the woman that he's having the affair with is Dolores, played by Anjelica Huston. Woody Allen has the other narrative, and it's funny, and it's about heartbreak and romance, and it's a comedic one. But the Woody Allen plots are funny and amusing, but I think it's the Judah plot that steals the movie for me, because I don't know if you guys have seen this, but the level of anxiety through the whole scope of that story is amazing to me. And I don't think it would have been possible without Anjelica Huston's performance as Dolores. She kind of hooks you from the moment. The first time you hear her voice is when Judah opens a letter that she sent to his wife to try to expose the affair. And you hear it in her voice, like she's very unstable and vindictive and unforgiving. And you kind of get the sense right away that she's really going to stop at nothing to expose her affair with him. A lot of their relationship is shown in present day and flashbacks, kind of a very common theme in Woody Allen movies. But So the build up to this is like, is she going to expose him? What is she going to do next? And then the plot takes a pretty dark turn when Judah decides that the only way to get rid of her is to have her killed. He lives in Connecticut. The scene where he drives down to her apartment in the city to confirm that she's actually dead after he gets the call that he sets it up. He sets up her murder by having his brother hire these gangsters to do it. And so when his brother calls and said it's done, he like still can't believe himself that he actually put himself through it. And so when he goes down to look at it, that's like one of the most like dreadful feeling movie scenes that I can recall in a while. He realizes like how he actually was capable of doing this to another human being. The movie hits on very familiar Woody Allen themes, as I mentioned, a lot of stuff in flashbacks, but it also has common themes such as regret, guilt, moral dilemmas. I'll just say, first off, I love this movie. I kind of always have. And I know there's a lot of people that are disgusted by the allegations against Allen. Obviously, I am too. You know, in today's day and age, we kind of have our own little moral dilemma of how you can separate someone's art with their personal behavior. It's a debate I have every time I watch a Woody Allen movie. So I'm understanding of why people are reluctant to like this movie and other parts of Woody Allen's work. That being said, I've always loved movies about moral dilemmas and the consequences that come with decisions that people choose to make. So in that regard, I'll always hold this movie in high standing in my eyes. And I think there's a reason that it's up there with some of Woody Allen's movies. And he even says that. He says this is one of the best films I made, because it really does. And we can talk about the final scene, because the final scene is sort of what gets you at the end. But I don't know. That's just how I feel about it. We haven't really gone into Woody Allen in depth in this podcast, and I don't really know if we should. So I'll leave that up to you guys to discuss that. But that's just how I feel about it. But really good movie, and I hope you get a chance to watch it. She's great in it. She's super like. I think, Kyle, you text me, you're like, she's a little over the top. I'm like, I think that's definitely intentional, because she was supposed to see, like, for this guy to go through the lengths to do this, she had to be over the top, and she had to be like threatening him in a way that he felt like this was his only option to take. And obviously it was like the worst fucking thing you could have chosen, but like he was like so on the edge that someone had to push him there. And I think she did a really good job in doing that.
I think to go off what you had mentioned, Rigby, is I had not seen a Woody Allen movie growing up, and by the time I was made aware of who he was, it was during the time that all of this information was in the public eye in regards to how much of a creep he is. And so I never went back and watched even his good movies, right? Like this is, based on the reviews I'm reading, people consider this his best, or one of his best in the running. Yeah. And it's just so hard for me to motivate myself to watch it knowing who is the person behind it, right? And separating someone's art from their personal life, I think, was a lot easier to do back in the day. And I just find it almost impossible now for me.
It's the R. Kelly effect.
Right. It's like, I loved R. Kelly's music when I was younger. I'm never going to listen to it again. And I'm okay with that. Mm-hmm. And with a movie like this, I think it's okay to say it's a great movie, but I don't have the urge to go see it because of who he is.
And that's why I said I'm understanding of people's reluctancy to even watch it, let alone like acknowledge it.
If you're interested and you want to watch it, it's all pieced up in like 13 parts on YouTube. And he also, because it's probably not legal, he's not going to get any residuals for it. So, do that for what you wish. And that's Crimes and Misdemeanors. Well, not the first Woody Allen film she did. We'll talk about another one here in a couple minutes. So before Largest Critic Gap, 89, a couple projects of note. First, she's in Enemies, A Love Story as Tamara. She was nominated for an Oscar for Best Supporting Actress, so another nomination. It's a really interesting story about a couple who survived the Holocaust, and the husband comes back and ends up marrying their housekeeper, Polish housekeeper. And then he finds out his wife is actually still alive and comes back over, played by Anjelica Huston. And he's also, while he was with the housekeeper, he had been messing around on the side with another woman. So that's why it's called Enemies, A Love Story, because he's trying to balance 3 different women at once, including his once believed to be dead wife, who was in the Holocaust. But she lost to the Bird Lady that year for Best Supporting Actress. She lost to Brenda Fricker. Brenda Fricker. She lost to Brenda Fricker.
Brenda Fricker. Warren, your girl.
Bingo.
From My Left Foot.
Who? Yeah.
But yeah, Ebert loved her in that role, and that was good. I enjoyed her in that role as well. And then she was also in Lonesome Dove as Clara in '89. That particular project, she got 2 Golden Globe noms for Best Supporting Actress, and that also had Robert Duvall, Danny Glover, Tommy Lee Jones, Chris Cooper. I mean, just a stacked cast, and has incredibly high ratings if you check it out online. Mm-hmm. And that takes us to Largest Critic Gap, which is one of her definitely more well-known roles in 1990s, The Witches, and Warren has it.
So I kind of went back and forth as I watched this, and I didn't get to watch the new one with Anne Hathaway, which apparently is like
big old piece of shit.
I think to its core a little bit more accurate with the book, except they're just updating it making it a little bit more culturally relevant. I mean, there's bits and pieces that they give and take. So this movie, it's basically there are witches and they have a plot to turn all the boys in London, little boys, to rats. This little boy named Luke and his grandma, who's an ex-witch hunter, are going to stop them. And it takes place mainly in a hotel. And there's not really a need to get into like the finer details of like the plot, just because A, it doesn't really tie out with the book, and B, it's just, a bunch of fluff. There were things that I really enjoyed. They filmed with actual rats, like running around and like interacting with people, like running between their feet while people were walking. They did a really good job between that. And even though it's really shitty and it's like 30 years old, but like the animatronic mice talking where they're basically puppets. But they still do a really good job of going back and forth between the two. And this is Jim Henson's last movie that he was on set for. And so he was a producer. He did all the prosthetics and stuff for the witches. And like Anjelica Huston is the Grand High Witch. Took her like 8 hours to get into all that prosthetics and makeup and everything to film those scenes, which I think she only ended up doing that once. I don't know if they filmed it all in one day. I sure as hell hope they did. It's not really a kid's movie. Like if a little kid were to watch this movie, they'd be pretty fucking terrified.
Pretty dark, man.
They're killing little kids at a pretty successful rate throughout the
Yeah.
Sounds like Ernest Scared Stupid.
A little bit.
Love it.
Yeah. She's good in the movie. For me, it's just like knowing what I've seen her play and everything else. She's the exact same person, but with like a German-ish accent. But she does have like her good part when she's like leading all the witches and she's just running that on her own. She's great. Then the rest of it's just her standing there and looking, slightly devious and maniacal. They're not really asking her to do much, but she is the draw and she is the person that everybody remembers from this. Nobody else in this movie, you would recognize their names. To see that on Rotten Tomatoes, it was a 93 and a 70. I'm a little below the audience, but not by much. Like it's actually, I did enjoy it. And, I had to remember this is the time frame at which it came out. And they did a pretty good job with it. But what I really would have liked to have seen was I did some research on the movie, and the director, Nicholas Roeg, R-O-E-G, don't know how to pronounce that. This movie came out and Roald Dahl and Jim Henson died that year, which probably a bad omen, but Dahl was incensed that the director had changed his original ending in the script, and as a gesture of consolation or conciliation, he offered 2 film versions before he made his final choice. The book version where Luke, the boy, remains a mouse, and the happier version where he's transformed back into a human. Upon watching the scene, loyal to his book, Dahl was so moved he was brought to tears. However, the director decided to go with the changed ending, which led Dahl to demand that his name be removed entirely from the credits and threaten a publicity campaign against the film. However, he was convinced by Jim Henson not to do that.
Yikes.
So that's like a super dick move. It's like, hey, do you want this or this? Oh, I really love this. Like, that's the best thing ever. Well, fuck you. You can't have that. Here's the thing that you hate.
Damn.
To be honest, the ending is really, I think it fucks up the movie. And I know he just wants it to be a happy thing, but the director showed the original cut to his kid. and his kid didn't like the ending, and so he changed it. As a parent, that's just terrible parenting. You got to scare the shit out of your kids.
My sisters loved this movie growing up, and keep in mind I was born in 1988, so by the time they showed this to me, I had to maybe have been 5 or 6 at the time. And all I remember was it was not made for kids at all. It is very dark and
terrifying.
Yeah, the little boy gets killed very quick, and another one's turned into a mouse instantaneously. I'm like, wow, this is not Hocus Pocus by any stretch of the imagination.
Different kind of witches here.
Mm-hmm.
It's an entertaining movie. It is definitely not a kids movie, but the cult status of it will keep it around for a long time. Probably if it weren't for Anjelica Huston, this movie would have faded away. Nobody would give a shit about it.
I agree.
Mm-hmm.
I don't disagree with him.
Something about her in this movie, and I think a lot of people, no matter who it is, you mention Anjelica Huston, and especially, I would say majority like females, millennial females, and you mention the movie, they'll be like, oh, Anjelica Huston, absolutely love her in this. Like, that is exactly what they tie to her, and why when you mention her name, they're like, I love her. I don't think many people are like, oh, yes, Wes Anderson is why I love Anjelica Huston. But, you know, it's this and Addams Family. Those are the reasons why people recognize her and they say that they love her.
Yeah, I mean, she pretty much owns from 85 to 96. So, I mean, that's her, when she's in her prime, it's her sweet spot for roles over those years.
Yeah.
She's played like a witch or some sort of variant of that in 5 different movies. So clearly she knows that she's good at pulling off the mysterious, the creepy, the dark and disturbing kind of role.
And this is another one of those roles where Cher was their first choice and she was busy doing something else. And so Anjelica stepped in and probably pretty good for her career at that point, even though she had already won an Oscar and been nominated for another by that time. Thanks, Warren. So the next 8 years, again, a lot of work and a lot of good work. She's in The Grifters, 1990. If you go to her IMDb page, this is, you know, when it says movies associated with an actor, this is the first thing, not even The Witches, this is the first thing that pops up. And she got an Oscar nomination for Best Actress, not supporting, but Best Actress in this one.
This movie is over 30 years old, and it holds up pretty well. If you don't get fixated on the random old car from the 80s or the massive supercomputer, aka a Commodore, you wouldn't be able to tell when this movie was made. It's basically about this trio of grifters. Anjelica Huston's the mother of John Cusack. They're both grifters. And then John Cusack is in a relationship with Annette Bening, who's also a grifter. And all 3 of them have these different, these different hustles going on. And it's kind of about how the hustles kind of play off of each other and conflict with each other. And more or less, you know, John Cusack is kind of torn between his hot girlfriend, Annette Bening, and his tricky and slick mother, Anjelica Huston, who works for a really powerful mob boss. And what I thought was interesting in her role is that she places bets to the mob boss to affect the odds on these horse races. And so in light of our most recent Reddit GameStop stock manipulation that was going on at the racetracks back in the day.
She called this the most challenging role of her career. And I read a couple lists that had her role on it as like the 100 best acting performances you need to see before you die. Really? So, yeah, she looks back and says that what it required was really tested her at that point in time in her career. Good for her.
That was a good performance, yeah.
And then 91, Addams Family, the first of 2 Addams Family movies with Addams Family values that came around a few years later. She got a Golden Globe nom for Best Actress.
I haven't seen the Addams Family in who knows how long. Easy 20 years, right? And it's had such a pop culture impact that I probably would have gone on not watching it for the rest of my life if it wasn't for this podcast, because I just felt like I already knew everything there was to know about it. Like, they've made a cartoon about it that came out recently. And then I rewatched it for the pod, and it is not what I remember. And it is a enjoyably weird movie. I don't know how they marketed it to kids. I think it's silly enough that kids can laugh at some of the jokes, but like a good portion of the jokes are about like murder and death, and her and Raul Julia Gomez are they steal every scene they're in, they steal it. And it's just like these two creepy, horny people who don't care about like murdering everyone around them because they just desperately want to fuck again. Dude, it's funny. Like I was watching it, it's like I don't even know what the plot is at the moment, but I'm enjoying this because she's talking about how like Gomez isn't the same anymore. Last night he coughed up blood, and her neighbor's like, "Oh my God, he coughed up blood." She goes, "Yeah, not as much as he used to. The passion's just not there anymore." And I'm just like, there's no way a little kid hears that joke and laughs, and I laughed watching it. But these movies are like they shockingly hold up because they're so absurd that the time period doesn't really matter.
What is he doing where he's like, "Don't torture myself, Gomez. That's my job," or something like that? Like that's the kind of banter that they have, and they make jokes about like red hot pokers and stuff during sex. Like
the poker joke was so funny because like she's tied up, and the people who are trying to rob them have like heated up a poker, and as she's tied up, they're gonna like put it through her, and he comes and he saves the day. And as he's like trying to untie her, he whispers, he goes, "Oh my God. You're tied up in red hot pokers. Oh my God." And she goes, later, honey. Like, we'll do it later. Like we have to take care of this first. He's like, okay.
Addams Family popularizing BDSM in 1991.
Dude, like
power to them.
Their chemistry is what like drives the movie, where it's like silly and stupid and you don't know where the plot is going, and everyone kind of plays like a haunted house character. And then the one thing that's like kind of normal is how abnormal it is that these two want to fuck the whole time.
Well, I think it's kind of like a movie that we reviewed earlier, the Brady Bunch, just like because this was a kid show obviously when it was on, so there were no jokes about this, so that what they took it into the 90s and sort of injected these sex jokes and stuff that obviously would have gone over a lot of kids' heads, but made it likable for adults too because they found that funny. So I thought it was a pretty genius way of doing it.
The interesting thing I learned reading about it was, she's kind of known for a character having her eyes like they're like pointed up, kind of high up her, and she called it super long and arduous filmmaking because they had to achieve that effect. They had to like put this thing into her scalp so she could pull her forehead back the entire time. And I can imagine after day one, you're like, this fucking sucks. This hurts.
I think I read that as well, where it was like they taped it so that her eyes were always up.
Ugh.
That sounds brutal.
And not just to do it for one movie, but to do it for two movies. Bravo to her, because that is a very beloved franchise at this point. I think the movies played a big role in that, especially her character alongside Gomez. So over the next couple of years, she's one of, 60 big-name actors who are in The Player in 92.
The movie's known for having, I think the most cameos of Hollywood actors of any movie.
Yeah. No, I thought that was that skit with the ShamWow guy. What was that, movie 33 or some shit?
Oh,
like
movie
43. Yeah, Warren's favorite movie.
I was off by two movies.
Yeah. She's in another Woody Allen film, Manhattan Murder Mystery. She gets a BAFTA nomination for Best Supporting Actress in that one. She's in Family Pictures, a miniseries where she plays alongside Sam Neill and a young Dermot Mulroney. And she gets a Golden Globe nom for Best Actress for that role. So, I mean, she's just firing away in the early 90s right now. Addams Family Values, another Golden Globe nomination for Best Actress. And The Bad and Played On, The Crossing Guard. She gets a Golden Globe nom for Best Supporting Actress in that one. I mean, she's just one after another getting all these major awards. At least recognition. Not necessarily winning all of them, but recognition. And then she's in Buffalo Girls as Calamity Jane in 95, another miniseries, rocking a Southern accent. That's not too bad. And another Emmy nomination for Outstanding Lead. Crazy early to mid 90s. And then she has her directorial debut in 96 with Bastard Out of Carolina, where she got a Primetime Emmy nomination for Most Outstanding Director. It's got really high ratings. That's what I noticed looking it up. Good for her. Extremely high ratings coming out of the gate. First of 3 that she directed. And then she's in Ever After, Cinderella Story as the kind of evil stepmother type of character in that one. And she looks the part, and her line reads are so scathing in that one. Like just a really good casting on their part for her.
They probably wrote the character kind of with her in mind at that point because she's cornered the market on being the
like creepy
witch.
asshole.
Yeah, exactly.
After Addams Family and The Witches, they're like, you're going to be perfect for this. And that takes us the largest audience gap, and that's Agnes Brown, 99, and James hasn't.
I was shocked to hear that Bastards out of Carolina had such good reviews because Agnes Brown is also directed by Anjelica Huston, and this movie's not good. So it led me to believe that she's a better actress than she is a director. And bear with me while I get through this synopsis. The unexpected death of her husband sends the woman, Agnes Brown, who's played by Houston, and her 7 children, ages between 2 and 14, into emotional turmoil and financial crisis in the late 60s in Dublin, Ireland. She is forced to borrow money from a loan shark to make ends meet, and she sells fruits and vegetables at an open-air market where she spends most of the time with her best friend, who's trying to kind of encourage her to get through this hardship. And here's where I guess the big plot turn comes. It's wishing to escape her existence, if only for a short time. She starts dreaming of finding enough money to attend a Tom Jones concert. And that's right. You heard that correct.
There's more Tom Jones coming, y'all.
Oh, yeah. And if you almost fell asleep during that synopsis, then you understand my struggle watching this movie. It's boring, man. It feels like it came out in the 70s, even though it came out in 1999. It rarely made me laugh or like care too deeply about the characters because when there is hardship, they throw some jokes in there, but the jokes like kind of fall flat, so you don't know really how you should feel at that moment. Kind of had a made-for-TV movie feel to it. The audience score is a 71, and I am strongly on the critics' side, which is much lower at a 40%. I don't know. This is probably a passion project. Because it has to do with a time frame in which she was growing up in Ireland, and she probably saw these hardships, even though she didn't experience the socioeconomic part of it herself. But like, it's just a boring movie, man. Like, it's just, I couldn't get through it. And yeah, she spoiler alert, she goes to a Tom Jones concert. Yeah, cool.
You weren't convinced when Tom Jones saves the day at the end and gets her out of financial hardship?
Like, she borrows money from the loan shark and then she pays it back. And it's like, okay, good for you.
Then her shitty kid borrows money to buy her a dress and ends up almost getting them evicted.
It's like, all right. Like, kids make stupid mistakes. It's like, all right. Like, I don't know. Like, I don't care. Like, it's not that deep of a story. It just wasn't that enjoyable. So it made me kind of question that she was good at directing because I do like her as an actress a lot. But this was just not an enjoyable film, and you have no reason to see it.
Just for clarification, she does play the title character, Agnes Brown, for everybody. So it is actor-director on this project.
There's no reason to spend more time on this movie.
I agree.
I'd rather talk about the Addams Family some more, to be honest.
All right, well, that wraps up the 90s for her. And we go into 2000 to 2010, and I will say she's very busy, but I think we're going to fire through this pretty quickly. She's in The Miss of Avalon. She gets a Primetime Emmy nomination for Best Supporting Actress in that one. She plays Mick Jagger's client in The Man from Elysian Fields. And then she starts her run with the Wes Anderson films. So she's in The Royal Tenenbaums as Etheline in 2001, which I hadn't seen until this podcast. So I marked off the last of my Wes Anderson movies.
I used to give Warren a lot of shit that he loved Wes Anderson movies. And in rewatching The Royal Tenenbaums, that is a funny movie. It's good. I take back some of my Wes Anderson hate. Royal Tenenbaums is funny. No way to pretend it's not. Hackman's character is hilarious. Mm-hmm. Hearing that he was a absolute unbearable dickhead on set was actually shocking to me. I didn't expect that, but his character is such a piece of shit in that movie that is so funny.
Maybe he was method.
That's my guess. He's such a douche in that movie, but he's hilarious.
Yes. That's a great cast.
It's an awesome cast.
Gwyneth is great in her role.
Yeah, I'm not a big Wes Anderson fan either, James. But I would say this is my favorite. She's great, and Hackman is too. Ben Stiller
and his kids.
Yes, with the jumpsuits. Yeah. Yep. It's an iconic movie, and rightfully so. With that cast, I don't really know how you could screw it up, but I'm glad they did because it's a good movie.
Others have figured out ways, right? For sure. To extrapolate on your point, James, she had some issues with Gene Hackman to the point where the scene where she slaps him, apparently she slapped him so hard at one point in one of the takes that it left a huge handprint on the side of his face because he was being such a jackass. And she's like, oh, this is my opportunity to just hit the shit out of Gene.
Wasn't it because he was like talking shit to Wes Anderson?
I think
Isn't
so.
that what I read? Where it's like
Yeah.
he was kind of critiquing the director of the movie and how inexperienced he was.
Mm-hmm. All right. So also in 2001, she was originally cast with Alicia Silverstone to be in Heartbreakers, which eventually went to Sigourney Weaver and Jennifer Love Hewitt. And no one's really quite sure, but Gene Hackman was in that movie. And my guess is because of her issues with Hackman on Royal Tenenbaums that they pulled the plug on that one. That's my theory there, that he may have said something and said, don't cast her because I fucking hate her. Who knows?
She slapped the shit out of me one time.
Yeah, that's, I'm going to go with that. That sounds right. But then over the next couple of years, we're just firing through these. She's in Daddy Daycare, Iron Jawed Angels, got a Golden Globe win that time for Best Supporting Actress. Another Wes Anderson film, The Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou.
One of my favorite scenes of hers is when she talks to Jeff Goldblum at the beginning of the movie, and she's just asking questions. Like, she's not flirting with him, just like saying hello. And clearly Jeff Goldblum has a thing for him, and Bill Murray comes over there and is like, can you not talk to my enemy, please? Like, just like interrupts. He's like, that's my rival you're speaking with, honey. Please don't talk to him.
That's three fun actors in a bunch there with Murray, Goldblum, and Houston. Then she directs another picture in Riding the Bus with My Sister in 2005, which has abysmal ratings. Her directing started on a high note and slowly went down from Agnes down to this one. And then again, more Wes Anderson. She's in the Darjeeling Limited as Patricia, a really interesting role, short hair, like gray hair, plays the mother in that particular movie. And she's pretty good in those scenes that she's in. And then gets a Primetime Emmy nomination for Guest Actress on Medium in a couple appearances between 2008 and 2009. And also 2008 is when her husband, Robert Graham, passes away, which affects her in a lot of ways, especially when it comes to how she takes on projects. She's in Choke with Sam Rockwell in 2008, and she's in the first of, I think, 7 or 8 different Tinkerbell projects as Queen Clarion in 2008, the Tinkerbell movie. If you like them, they're all on Disney Plus, and you can watch them there. All of that finishes up the 2000s, and she enters into the 2010s with a stellar performance. I guess we'll find out. In the lowest critic score of Horrid Henry the movie, and Case is overwhelmed with enthusiasm to talk about it.
The fix is in, you guys. It doesn't matter what category Rigby has. He gets the best movie every time.
That's not true.
I think we all agree on that, yeah.
I think Rigby had flipping Godfather one time as the lowest critic score somehow. I don't get how that works.
Rigby's over here watching Braveheart, and I'm watching movies that no one's ever seen before.
Yeah, the number of views were the 3 times you tried to watch it and fell asleep. That being said, I do the dubious task of reviewing Horrid Henry, and there's 2 interesting side notes about my viewing of the movie. Number 1, the highlight of my viewing was the commercials on IMDb TV through Amazon Prime. And the other part was the version I had 1 review, and it was a 1 star. And the only thing I regret about that is that I couldn't have gotten there first to do the 1 review and 1 star of this movie. So it's a 2011 British children's comedy directed by Nick Moore. It's based on the popular children's book written by Francesca Simon. For a long time, Horrid Henry was actually the 2nd most popular children's book in England behind Harry Potter. And then this next fact brought me memories of Warren's review from last episode about the movie Emoji, when that movie was the first movie to be released in Saudi Arabia in 35 years. They got to enjoy that treat.
It's some sort of artistic warfare.
The British film fans were treated to their first ever children's 3D movie in Horrid Henry. I'm really glad that I only had to watch this in 2D, because that would have been one more dimension that would have made me... I'm going to get through this quick. There's not a lot to talk about this movie. It's basically about a troublemaker kid. Guess what? He hates homework. He has fake hatred toward girls. And somehow him and his friends want to save the school by being in a punk band. Because every punk band in the world has aspired to save their elementary school.
Very much goes against the punk mentality.
Yes, it does. Well, I thought the Clash, didn't the Clash try to save Oxford University one time from
Yeah,
closing?
that's what they were well known for, is their support of public and private
higher education.
institute. Yeah, big education, guys.
All the children characters in this movie have annoying alliteration names, and a lot of times they're acting out what their alliteration name is. And the most egregious one of all of them was a character named Aerobic Al, who, yes, you guessed it, was doing some form of exercise every time that we saw him, and he was out of breath every time he talked. And that sums up the cast and the characters of this shit show.
You've never met a skinny kid named Al. Let's be honest. Every kid named Al.
There was another who was like Lazy Linda, and it was this girl who was asleep in every class.
Yes. Houston plays the villainous teacher, Mrs. Battleaxe, and she's mean.
Great name.
Yeah, what a fucking brilliant name. That's like a wrestler name.
Yeah, that's an unbelievable name for a bad teacher.
She's good in it. And in an interview I thought was interesting, she said, found this role to be irresistible because it was so crazy and outlandish. And when she started the project, she was actually, like Kyle and probably the rest of us, was unaware how popular the children's books were because she didn't have a bunch of kids running around the house. And that actually speaks to how she played this role as the badass battle axe with no, like, just complete disconnection with these kids because she's not around kids. And so it was easy for her. Long story short, this isn't a good movie. It's basically like an hour and 30-minute TV show.
Do you think now she would be upset that we're talking about it and telling a potentially wide audience that this exists?
Okay.
No.
Nah.
I think she's going to feel the same way she did about her first movie, where she's surprised that anybody watched it.
That's true.
That check still clears, man, so I don't think she gives a shit.
That's true. If it's as popular as the book series was, maybe there's an audience for it. Sorry, Case.
And it happens. Not to Rigby, but it happens.
Yeah, you'll watch the sequel for the next podcast.
Yeah, and as the highest critic score.
Yeah.
Oh my God! Heaven forbid! I don't even want to know which actor that's going to be. If that's highest critic score, we're in trouble.
I kept writing Horrid Henry, and I kept thinking of Hardcore Henry. Which didn't you do that one too, Craig?
I did not.
No, but we did cover Hardcore Henry, which
I just talked about it, yeah.
ahead of its time.
That's right.
Tim Roth episode.
That's right.
That was actually supposed to be my lead-in joke. Was that it is not the sequel or prequel to Hardcore Henry.
Next time.
They should make a crossover with Hardcore and Horrid Henry.
Fuck, I would pay to see that.
The Henry universe, baby. Let's go. The HCU. I want to see it. Can you imagine that
the little
shitty
kid gets blown away?
The whole school.
Horrid
Probably
Henry's
the only one that survives is Mrs. Battleaxe, to be honest with you.
He's a QAnon conspiracy theorist.
Making light of a shitty situation. Thank you, Craig. The 2010s, we're going to fire through this. She is in 50-50, which we obviously talked about on episode 1, the OG with JGL.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember her character. I believe she plays his mom, right?
Yeah, she's his mom.
American Dad. She is the narrator for a documentary about Burma, which is something that she's done quite a bit of in her personal side from a humanitarian angle. She judged accordingly. She won PETA's Person of the Year in 2014 for the work she did with the Great Apes and also changing the horse-drawn carriage industry in New York City.
That's sweet.
Any initial thoughts when I say that?
Anyone who at this point doesn't understand that PETA is trolling with a lot of their statements on social media just to garner attention and clicks and views is a sucker, because PETA, when you hear of the actions they have taken, you're like, okay, yeah, I get that. And then when you see the statements they make, everyone's like, why would anyone say that? It's like, because of this conversation. When PETA came out and was like, you shouldn't say kill two birds with one stone, you should say feed two birds with one scone.
Oh my God.
And everyone's like, I'll never change what I say. It's like, right, because they're fucking with you and you don't understand that they're fucking with you right now. I went from hating on PETA to getting the joke, and I think their social media manager needs a raise and a promotion because they're hilarious.
Drawing attention to them. People are paying attention.
Absolutely.
She did a show called Smash, played a character named Eileen from 2012 to 2013, and she said that particular role came at a really crucial time in her life, filled a void. It was a couple of years after her husband had passed away, and I think she was struggling at that point. I mean, she chose to do Horrid Henry, so I think she was not in a great place. That's supposed to be a joke. That's funny, but I guess it didn't land.
Well, no, it's probably accurate.
Yeah, is it too real? Maybe it's too real.
It might be too real.
But after that, a couple episodes of BoJack Horseman, big gap, 2014 to 2020, and probably the coolest work that I've seen her do in the 2010s. She was in 2 different seasons of Transparent as a character named Vicky. She plays Moira's partner in that. She has a double mastectomy in that, and that's obviously a really powerful show, and I am props to her for taking on a character like that at that point in her career.
It's a great show. It's about Jeffrey Tambor.
Oh, okay.
Has a late age transition from male to female. He's like in his 60s in it, and it's about his family and how they react to it. And it's a very interesting family dynamic because while he's going through that, the kids are dealing with a lot of stuff too. It's a good show.
She's in The Cleanse in 2016. She's the narrator and executive producer of Thirst Street with Bill Pullman. She continues her Wes Anderson universe roles in Isle of Dogs as a mute poodle.
Isn't Isle of Dogs animated?
Yeah.
Yes.
It's like almost like a stop motion esque type movie.
Yeah. She's not actually in it, but I guess she guilt tripped Wes Anderson after he basically forgot about her. Or maybe he just didn't forget about her, but she harassed him enough to where he credited her as a mute poodle in the movie. So
Okay.
she doesn't have any lines, but she she basically
That's
threatened
hilarious.
him. And she's like, Wes, I'm going to be in your fucking movie, so put me in it.
Yeah, I respect that.
Yeah.
Like
So good for her.
Brad Pitt and Deadpool too.
Yeah, exactly. I think she was, it's like one of those clubs, the Adam Sandler club. You don't want to get left out. So she's like, no, I'm going to be in here because I don't want you choosing some young actress and putting her in your next movie, which seems like we'll talk about here in a little bit. It seems like she made the right move. And then she was in John Wick Chapter 3, Parabellum. She played the director, which is also a pretty cool role for her at this point in her career in 2019. And the 2019 is kind of in Angelica's I don't give a shit era where people ask her questions in interviews and she just doesn't care anymore. Like she openly criticized Diane Keaton and Jackie Weaver for being in the movie Palms in 2019, and apparently there's a huge public spat with that. And you could find other interviews where at this point she's like, I don't really care. I've been in this industry long enough. People know I'm good at what I do, and I don't really care about burning any bridges.
I respect the move.
I think you reach an age in especially in Hollywood where you can get away with that, and she's doing it.
Yes, she is.
I mean, Hollywood, you have to assume half the people you're interacting with are like the fakest people you've ever met.
Right.
So you cling to those who are authentic. And then when someone asks you, like, how do you feel about this? You're like, not looking for any more roles anytime soon. So let me tell you, this person fucking sucks.
Yeah. Especially, I think if you have a 40+ year career too, I mean, you're going to burn some bridges. So you reach a point where you just doesn't matter anymore.
I just wish that after the public statement went out from Houston about Diane Keaton and Jackie Weaver, that they came back and put a joint statement that said, bitch, you were in Horde Henry, shut your trap. Just hoping for that. To be like, yeah, we're in a shitty cheerleading movie. What do you want from us? We're trying to get paid. Last little tidbit, she's written 2 memoirs, A Story Lately Told that was released in 2013 and Watch Me 2014. So if you want to learn even more crazy stories about her life and growing up and who she's around, check those out at your local bookstore or wherever you get your online books. And that brings us all the way to 2020 and to Rigby's top performances list. What do you got, Riggs?
All right. This is from our favorite, comingsoon.net.
Bingo.
Oh, that's our boy.
List.
Is this one from Upgrade?
This is from Upgrade.
Upgrade.
Give me the 10 best roles of Anjelica Huston's career, according to comingsoon.net. Who wants to take a stab? And I think we mentioned all of these.
When was it released?
I think 2018. So this won't include John Wick, but the way that you guys described it, she probably doesn't deserve to be on there anyway. So
she's not in much of it. Okay.
It's the Addams Family.
Yep. This is not in numerical order, by the way. So it's just 10 total ones. But Addams
Does that count
Family
twice or no?
It's just the franchises in here, so that's one.
Okay, that's fair.
The Vitches.
Yes.
Grifters.
Yeah.
Prizzy's Honor.
Prizzy's Honor is not on here, and she.
Oh,
I know.
Her Oscar win didn't make it.
no Academy Awards.
Her Oscar win did not make it.
Enemies, a love story.
No.
Damn.
Ever After.
Nope.
Crimes and misdemeanors.
Lonesome Dove on there.
Both Crimes and Lonesome Dove are on here.
Damn, I gotta watch Lonesome Dove again.
Yeah, she's pretty good in that. Tons of people talk about how it's like one of the better Western miniseries ever made.
Iron-Jawed Angels.
Nope.
Manhattan Murder Mystery.
Nope.
Give us some hints here. Any Wes Anderson projects on there?
Yeah, I think we were missing some. You're missing two.
Tenenbaums?
Tenenbaums is not on here, but you're missing two other Wes Andersons.
Darjeeling Limited.
Yep.
Yeah, she's good in that. Life Aquatic?
Life Aquatic, yeah.
Okay.
Interesting. Her role's way smaller in that.
Yeah, I would say that one's very minimal.
Sus.
I think we're missing two more.
Is it movies or TV?
Oh, Daddy Daycare.
Movies, and one of the movies features a fellow Munson.
Oh, Choke.
Nope.
Oh.
We only had a couple crossovers, so a movie with a crossover. Who do we miss?
Oh, 50-50.
50-50.
Oh,
Nice.
yeah, that's a good one.
yeah,
That
okay.
makes sense.
Yeah.
Very good movie.
Last one was in, I think, 98 was when this movie came out,
98.
with another Addams Family character.
Buffalo Girls.
Oh, yeah, with
Buffalo 66.
Oh, yeah.
with Christina Ricci.
Yeah, I think that was the one movie on this list that we maybe didn't even mention. It's got pretty good reviews. I mean, 75 on Rotten Tomatoes, but just a kind of a small movie that
She plays, I had it originally in the show notes. I deleted it for time. She plays a terrible mom who doesn't remember that her son is allergic to chocolate and tries to feed him chocolate like years later. A little bit different. Of those that we just announced, what would you guys say you think is her number one since it's not numbered?
Addams Family.
It's Morticia.
Yeah, definitely Addams Family for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
I agree.
Even though it's not the most glamorous of roles, I think that's definitely what she'll be remembered for most, I feel like.
No question.
Like I said, there's still, and James said, there are movies that still sort of stand the test of time. At least according to us. I don't know about according to other people, but I enjoyed them, and I enjoy her role in that. So
It is Munson Meter time. The way we do this, every actor, we rate them on a scale of 0 to 100 based on a variety of factors. Those factors could include their longevity, project choice, pop culture impact, acting range, their awards footprint, any other talents they might have, personal life, comedy chops, box office success or lack thereof, and anything else that really matters to us. I will get us started this time with Anjelica. I like Anjelica. I think she's goes under the radar because for folks, I think our age, her heyday was 85 to 95 to around 2000. Other than Addams Family and The Witches and some of those, we probably weren't watching those at that time. And she's been steadily busy. I'll give her credit over the years. She's talented. She's a model. She's directed, some good, some bad. She's a writer. She's got a ton of awards recognition she's won the Oscars. She's been nominated multiple times for Oscars, but Golden Globes, Emmys, has done all of those things. She's a good humanitarian, won some awards for that. She's worked with 8 Oscar-winning directors over her career, which I think is really interesting.
Wow.
Yeah, the more I watched her stuff, I realized she can be a little bit of a chameleon when it comes to accents in different types of characters, whether it's going back to her roots, Irish, English, Southern, across the board. And her favorite show right now is Schitt's Creek, and so, James, you can judge that accordingly.
It's a great show.
Wow.
But the 2010s are pretty brutal. The last decade, outside of Transparent and maybe John Wick, I think she's run into a little bit of a wall of her career. I guess 50-50 falls in there, so that's good. With all that said, I don't think she's very funny from a comedic standpoint, but she gets pretty strong scores across the board for me for a lot of the other pieces, especially range and longevity. So I'm going to give her an 81. Warren.
I think that her pop culture impact can be boiled down to like 2 or 3 roles. And I just don't really care about anything outside of them. I've seen some of the ones that she's got the Oscar nominations and stuff from, or Golden Globes with like Iron-Jawed Angels. We had to watch that in high school. But for me, all I want to see her in is like black and playing something devious, and I think that's what everybody expects out of her as well. And she's got a very, dry sense of humor. So Wes Anderson really fits with her delivery and her style, but she doesn't have huge roles in those movies. And she is a star in some movies, but she's still just a supporting actor in a lot of them. And I also think that, while she is the 3rd generation of like Hollywood royalty, I genuinely want to know what she would be doing if she was just born in like a normal family. But she's the pop culture and everything there, longevity, all that. Me personally, I'm not the biggest fan. I'm going to give her a 69. A, because I think Gomez would like that, and B, I think to take Rigby, I think that's a pretty fair score.
Nice.
James.
You guys have said a lot of it. What I'll say is Morticia Addams is a character that is going to define her career for the rest of her life. That's why she has a star on Hollywood Boulevard. It is quirky and campy and dark and funny and sexy all in one, and she rocks it. I think that is her pop culture impact, and I think that is what will be how people remember her forever. Her awards footprint is one of the better ones that we've covered on this podcast. I think that's where a lot of my points come in here. Yeah, she's older now and she doesn't get a lot of main roles, but she is still in major motion pictures with kind of her relationship with Wes Anderson. Based on her career longevity and pop culture impact and the awards that she has locked in, plus the fact that she's had a hard life and seems like she's relatively down to earth when she could have gone off the complete deep end based on some of the things that have happened to her. I'm going to give her 1 point less than Kyle and give her an 80.
All right, Rigby.
Yeah, you guys have hit all the points. She's obviously got a family tradition in Hollywood. Memorable roles, so pop culture knowledge, she gets points with me there. She's got the Academy Award nomination. Obviously, she's been around for 40 years. I think that's pretty impressive. Or longer than that. I mean, almost 50 years in terms of major roles. I think that's pretty impressive. So she's going to get an 81 from me.
All right, Case, round us out.
You guys have pretty much said it all. I'm going to give her a 71.
All right, Warren, what do we got?
Anjelica Huston, a 76.4, which puts her at 11th between Rami Malek and Christine Applegate.
Right outside the top 10.
How do you feel about that, Rigby?
Very fair.
Yeah, I think it's fair as well.
Yeah, it's good.
Well, she is right on Malek's heels, like 0.2 points behind him.
He has not gotten very good reviews on his new movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard nothing but bad things about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're saying he in particular, not a great cast. That's what I've read a lot of.
You mean the director of The Blind Side doesn't make a good murder thriller? Very surprised by that.
Yeah.
Anytime that we get Ward give us the score average, I think to myself, oh, fuck, that is way too low. And then he says who they're by, and I'm like, oh, that's pretty accurate.
All right, Warren. Well, what is she got coming?
She's in this little movie that might be like the most stacked cast of all time called The French Dispatch. That's Wes Anderson, along with Timothée Chalamet, Saoirse Ronan, Elizabeth Moss, Tilda Swinton, Owen Wilson,
Ridiculous.
Edward Norton, Adrian Brody, Frances McDormand, Christoph Waltz, William Dafoe, Bill Murray, Benicio del Toro, Liev Schreiber, Jason Schwartzman, Anjelica Huston, Henry Winkler, Jeffrey Wright.
Jesus.
That budget has to be incredible.
I think a lot of the people just do it because they want to be in one of his movies.
Maybe they're taking the Wes Anderson discount
Yeah.
at that point.
Timothée Chalamet looks like he was like built in a lab for Wes Anderson movies.
Yeah, I get that.
Can't wait to watch it on HBO Max.
Hell yeah.
That's true. Yeah. I mean, we would have already seen it by now, but, COVID making our lives challenging. Well, we'll see. I mean, I think that goes to show where she's at. A lot of other actors we cover, like, I got 8 projects coming. She's just, she's got French Dispatch. So I think she is not compelled to do as much work as she once did in the 80s and 90s. Mm-hmm. So good for her.
The pent-up demand from COVID is going to be crazy when, like, all these movies are actually released.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be like a good movie every week, I feel like.
We'll see. All right, we got 5 actors we're throwing on the wheel for episode 30. Yeah, episode 30 is on us, boys. Those 5 are Kate Hudson, William Hurt, Michael Stolbarg, Asif Mandi, and Marissa Tomei.
Oh, man.
Tomei's number 1, and Kate Hudson's number 2.
Yeah.
I did just watch Tomei and the Perez Family, which we didn't mention today, but if we get to cover it, James, as a Tomei fan, you will absolutely love that role because she is a smoke show in that movie.
She's a smoke show in every movie because she is a smoke show.
Yeah.
This is true.
Marissa Tomei deserves respect from everybody. Timeless.
Can we give more than 100? I don't know.
I would love to do Stolbarg just because his path to success, I think, is really fascinating. Because he was like a nothing for years, and the last 10 years he's exploded.
My guess is if it's John's doing it, he probably picked it because John and Mark both speak twin language.
Maybe.
That's a scientific term.
I like Stolbarg.
I didn't pick anything. I don't know who we're covering, but I'm hoping it's Stolbarg.
Is it bad that I would dread Kate Hudson?
I would.
Why would you dread that?
That's bad, and that's why it's awesome. Somebody needs to watch Fool's Gold. Somebody needs to watch How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days. Somebody needs to watch... I'll watch Bride Wars again.
Oh, yeah.
How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days is a pretty good movie.
Was she in a scary movie?
Yeah,
I
she
feel like
was
she
in
was.
the Skeleton
Skeleton
Key.
Key.
Oh,
That's what
yeah.
I was going to say The Wicker Man. I was like, no, that's not right. That's
That's
Nicolas
just
Cage.
all Nicolas Cage.
One of those twist movies like Shutter Island that everybody was notorious for.
William Hurt would be good. I don't know what he's been in lately.
He's got a lot of good ones, though.
He's been in way too much stuff.
Some of his stuff from the 80s is fucking awesome, though.
Only stuff I can remember right now is his Marvel stuff and also Into the Wild.
Yeah, as his dad. He was his dad, right?
Yeah, but that's all I can think of.
He's
right
like
now.
one of the worst characters in Marvel, too. It's Thunderbolt.
Thunderbolt. And then if we do Asif Mandi, we'll laugh. We'll laugh a bunch. He's not in a ton of stuff. He's supporting in a lot of things. He's probably not going to get a great score from us. But
Potentially the
be
lowest.
funny. Potentially, if we did cover him. But as you always know, we don't get to make that decision. The wheel decides. All right, next episode will land on February 25th. We will be joined once again by the other half of the Rigby duo, John Rigby. Some would say the better half. I can't say who would say that.
I know they both look like shit.
Yep.
Oh, Lord.
Last time we did it, he was here with me, so he's back in California. So we're going to a little harder to pick his brain this time about what he's going to say.
It's been weird hearing you record and not hearing John play Madden in the
Yeah.
background. So
Him tweak out about getting his ass kicked in Madden in the back.
I'm excited because Warren wasn't here the last time we had Rigby ×2, so he'll get a chance to try to parse through which Rigby is talking right now. Good luck.
That's right. You weren't here for that, were you, Warren?
No, I was not.
He was not present for the Allison Janney one, but hey, he's going to get his shot here. Well, John will be great. We'll have a good conversation, and y'all can guess in the meantime who John would pick from that list of 5. As always, you can find us on Twitter, Munson's at Movies. You can find us on Instagram, Munson's at the Movies. You can email us, munsonsatthemovies@gmail.com. Any final thoughts from Munson's?
Your disgrace! Your good-for-nothing world!
Munson's out.
All right, let's go. Thank you for the education, gentlemen. We've just received a PhD in stupidity. Doctor, shall we?